my ring. Yes, she breathes, nodding and blinking away the tears clouding her vision. She wipes her eyes with one hand, stretching the other to him. Always yes. Ejike slips the ring onto her fourth finger, left hand, and arises, pulling her to her feet also. He gathers Rachel into his arms, hugs her tight, allowing his tears of joy to flow freely. Everything is right with his world now. Ejike's gorgeous engagement ring on her long, slender finger, with her hand on his. Rachel's display picture on WhatsApp, her status on Instagram and Facebook. She wants the whole world to know she has found happiness, and the congratulatory messages have been coming all morning. Rachel beams as she admires the cut of diamond encased in her white gold engagement band. She's hardly been able to stop looking at it since Ejike placed it on her finger last night. Dinner had been superb, the food delectable. They talked about their wedding plans and life after saying I do too. He had obviously given things a lot of thought, and it was amazing to her how in sync they were. It's beautiful, ma'am, Lolu says, surprising Rachel. Congratulations. Thanks, Lolu. Rachel looks up, overjoyed. Still in a celebratory mood, she asks, when last did you take the day off? Lolu blushes and looking down. It's been long, ma. Rachel shakes her head, not good at all. Why don't you take the week off? Joseph will cover for you. I don't think we are too busy, are we? No, ma, we are not. Splendid. Rachel beams, still admiring her engagement ring. Looking up, she's surprised to see Lolu still standing there. Is there something wrong? Lolu shakes her head. But ma, I want to ask you for something. Please don't be offended. Rachel swallows, putting down her hand and adopting a more serious expression. What is it? It's Dr. Goodman, ma. He just asked me if I will have dinner with him. I hope you don't mind. I want to say yes. Rachel stares at the young lady before her. You mean as I asked you out? She bows her head, nodding slightly. Rachel rises from her seat and rejoices. This is great, amazing, absolutely. Say yes if you want. Lolu looks up, a smile slowly forming on her lips. It's okay. It's better than okay. Rachel beams as she throws open her arms to hug Lolu. I couldn't have picked a better woman for him. He's a good man. I'm happy he sees a worthy woman in you. Lolu exhales. Thank you, ma. When's your date? Tonight, ma. Rachel nods. Good. Why don't you treat yourself to our premium spa package, huh? Oh my, God bless you. Lolu curtsies, beaming as she exits the room. Praise you, Lord, Rachel jubilates. She brings out her phone to send Ejike a message. He will be delighted, no doubt. She chuckles when she sees he has copied her displayed image as his own. Oh, my heart. Later that week, Rachel's with her stepsisters, sister-in-law, and stepmom at Wick Baker Hotel in Ikoyi, enjoying a nice lunch and planning her wedding to Ejike. The couple had decided to do an intimate traditional ceremony followed by a small reception at Ejike's manor. For me, the transportation to that place is the issue, Mrs. Eden says. Yeah, me too, Cassie chimes in. Actually, our plan is for everyone to come in a day before the wedding. There's plenty of room to accommodate all the guests. Really, that will triple the cost. You know you have to feed all those people for 2, maybe 3 days. Rochelle contributes. It's no more expensive than a destination wedding. Rachel shrugs. It's what we want. If it's what you want, Mrs. Eden shrugs too. Where are you getting your dress? I know someone who designs locally. She's very popular on Instagram. Actually, Elizabeth and Lace Bridal. You might have heard of her. Yes, her designs are awesome. I know 2 friends who used her. Cassie says. Rachel beams. She looks at Dio, who is being unusually quiet all through. You okay, Dio? You've hardly said anything. I'm fine, she mutters. Oh, okay. Actually, she looks up at everyone, her expression as one about to burst with a big secret. I'm pregnant. Oh wow. Oh my God. Praise Jesus. The women jubilate in unison. Sorry, Rachel. I didn't want to say anything, but because I didn't want to hijack your celebration, but I'm so happy and scared too. Why are you scared? Don't be. Rachel says, this is our first pregnancy to pass the 12-week mark. Can you believe I've lost 6? Oh wow, so sorry. Cassie says, I can relate. You know it's a struggle for us too. Rochelle still visibly shocked as she looks Dio up on and down, mouths agape. You've you've passed you've passed 12 weeks and you are looking skinny like that. Everyone laughs. It's possible, Mrs. Eden says. When I carried you, I didn't even know it till my second trimester. More chuckles. We'll continue to pray for you and Richard Dio. May God see you through the finish line this time, Rachel says. Everyone nods in agreement. Amen. Grab drives his wife home after their 38-week appointment with 2 weeks left till their due date. Ihotu getting increasingly irritable. She can hardly wait for the baby to be born. Her Braxton Hicks contractions started about a week ago and have been growing stronger and stronger, but the doctor said it's not time yet. She looks out of the window, aggrieved. Don't worry, baby. 2 weeks will be over in no time. Easy for you to say, she eases. Sorry, baby. If I could carry him and spare you the pain, you know I would. Ihotu turns to her husband. For a moment, it looks like she has something sweet to say. Then she eases and looks out the window again. Cheap talk. Doc Jab shakes his head. He can't wait for the baby to come out either. Ihotu's mood swings are getting unbearable. They continue to drive in silence. DJ gets an alert on his phone just as they get to their street. Sorry, babe, I need to stop over at the pharmacy near our house. Abeg, drop me at home first. The heat is too much and the AC isn't cooling well. It will only be a minute. I just remembered I need to get something. She turns to him, suspicion on her face. What do you need to get now? That is more important than your wife's comfort. Sure, you said you'd do anything for me. Even carry this baby yourself if you could. You ought to please, DJ says. Pulling over the pharmacy, he grabs his phone as he goes in, leaving the car on for Ihotu's benefit. Jesus, let this baby come today, I beg. Ihotu knows she's being irritable, but she can hardly help it. Shutting her eyes, she tries to regain control of her mood. A contraction hits her, and she bites down the bottom lip, riding it out, gasping with relief when it's over. How can they say she's not ready to deliver? How can they expect her to live with this type of pain and another contraction comes, interrupting her thoughts? Jesus, that one was painful. Suddenly, the fear of pushing her baby out hits her. She breaks out in sweat. Or maybe it's the heat in the car. Open the window. She wants to step out when she sees DJ rushing towards her, a nylon bag in his hand. She shuts the door. What did you get? Paracetamol, DJ says, reversing the car onto the street. We have paracetamol at home. I mean, ibuprofen is stronger. I have a headache. You have a headache. Another is. Try having a big head pressing on your vagina. DJ tightens his grip on the steering wheel as he tries to control his reaction to his wife. At last, they are home, and he drives into the compound, going to her side. He helps her out of the car gently and supports her as they make it to the front door. He opens it and they walk into the lounge. Immediately, they are greeted with surprise. With surprise, Iyotu is shocked to her core. The feeling causes something that was barely holding together to break. Right there in their living room, in front of a few close friends and family, that decided to throw her a shower. Her water breaks, causing a scene, a puddle on the floor. Everyone is stunned as the soon to be mother, but no one expects the wailing that follows. Oh God! Uyotu bawls her eyes out. It's okay, darling. We'll just go to the hospital. Uyotu shrugs him off. It's not okay. Do you know how long I have been waiting for this shower? And now I'm going to miss my party, she cries. Rachel goes to her. I'm sorry, dear. It's my fault. I should have planned it sooner. But we need to get you to the hospital, okay? When another contraction hits her, you too cannot deny the truth. Oh well, she'll come back home to the gifts with her baby. The thought makes her smile. She suddenly brightens up. I'm going to have a baby, she announces joyfully. Her friends cheer her on, saying congratulations as her husband turns her around and heads back in the direction they just came. OBA, Ihotu calls her sister. Please help me get my bag from the bedroom. Thank God she's already packed. Don't worry, Hotu. I'm right behind you, Rachel says. I'll bring everything. While OBA goes upstairs, Rachel quickly cuts some of the cake before heading to the kitchen to pack food and other treats for Ihotu and Dog Jab. When they are back in the car, a happier Ihotu turns to her husband. Thanks for my surprise party, baby. I'm sorry I was crabby earlier. Forgive me. Dog Jab chuckles. Done. I love you. He beams at his wife. I love you too, baby. The weeks fly by in a haze as the Okafors and Eden prepare for Ejike and Rachel's marriage in September. With a week to the wedding, a few special friends and family members gather at Eden's mansion to have a pre-wedding dinner in celebration of their love. Rachel's nervous. Rachel's nervous because she would finally meet Ejike's mom, who flew in today to grace the occasion. Despite their family connections, they have never met face to face, unlike her husband, who had met Rachel at Ekene's introduction. Mrs. Okafor has always been otherwise engaged. Rachel swallows as she descends the grand stairway, looking down at Ejike, who is standing by the banister talking with his mom. Finally, she alights the last step and they turn to her. She gives her most confident smile. Rachel, I'd like you to meet my mom, Ejike says, his arm around his mother's shoulders. Mom, meet my Rachel. Rachel curtsies in greeting, her heart racing with her. She longed to establish a relationship with Ejike's mom, but Mrs. Okafor had always put off any introductions even after learning of their engagements. At their introduction last month, she'd been represented by her sister, my Rachel. The words ring in Mrs. Okafor's ears. She swallows. Good evening, ma. Rachel greets. Mrs. Okafor gives Rachel a one over. So this is the woman you left it for ma for? Rachel sucks her lips nervously. As expected, they've had opposition from some family members over their union. Not only is their situation fraught with controversy, but it is also unusual for two brothers to marry sisters related by blood. But she's been praying that Mrs. Okafor will be accepting her. Ejike swallows. Rachel is the one I love, Mom. I know you love her too once you get to know each other. Mrs. Okafor gives Rachel a small smile. You don't have a native name? Rachel swallows her nose. Ogene Fejiri, oh Fejiri ma. What does that mean? God is worthy of praise. Why don't you use it? Rachel shrugs. Everyone calls me Rachel, but you can call me oh Fejiri ma. Mrs. Okafor nods. Okay. She turns to Ejike and draws a breath I hope she makes you happy. Ejike beams. He looks at Rachel, who is clearly nervous as she keeps her head bowed and says, like I've never been before. Mrs. Okafor huffs and turns to Rachel. Nice to meet you, Ofejiri. Rachel smiles. Thank you, ma. After Ejike escorts his mother to her car, he returns to her seat. He returns to find Rachel in the foyer when he sat the day he first expressed his love for her. She has just stepped out of the guest toilet where she'd gone to compose herself after meeting her soon-to-be mother-in-law. She had been lucky with her first, but will she be loved by the second too? Hey baby, you okay? Ejike asks, reaching for her and searching her eyes. Rachel nods, I'm fine. Really? Rachel lets out a sigh. Yeah, I know my mom can be a bit of an armadillo, but when you get past the hard shell she puts up, she's really a softie. I know she'll love you almost as much as I do. Ejike says, looking into Rachel's eyes. Her sweet smile sends shivers down his spine. Oh, how he aches to kiss her red, luscious lips. He swallows. Rachel notices Ejike's hesitation and wraps her hand around him, placing her head on his chest, where she listens to his racing heart. Ejike hugs her tight, his head bent, taking in assent. Oh Lord, just one more week, she'll be mine. Chapter 21. You may now kiss the bride. Alas, the moment he had imagined, dreamt of, and longed for since the day they met 8.5 years ago has fallen upon him. After months of waiting, he is finally able to do what he denied himself, kiss the woman he loves with all his heart. Lifting her veil, he uncovers her face, perfectly made up for the celebratory occasion. She looks more beautiful than he had ever seen. Rachel can hardly believe this is not a dream, though she could not be blamed for thinking that it is. She has dreamt of this moment with precision, right down to the hanging leaves that act as they shade as they are married in nature. By the lake, one looked around and she's sure her head would swim from the experience of deja vu. They are truly meant to be, after all, but looking away, she can't, as Ejike draws her close to him, with one strong arm, the other arm falling gently by her cheek, he guiding her mouth towards his. At last, their lips meet. And it's as real as anything she has ever felt. No, this is not a dream. This is a gift. His kiss is soft and tender. Today, there's no haste, no desperation, no shame. He belongs to her and she belongs to him. The kiss does what it's meant to do. Communicate to the lovers how much they are desired, cherished, and adored. Silver tears escape her eyes when their lips part eventually. She heard everything he wanted to hear without words. I will love you forever. I want to raise a toast to my daughter and her true love. The Bible says one day with God is better than 1,000 days elsewhere. Well, my prayer for you is that each day of your marriage you shall be better than the thousands of days you've spent apart. May God's goodness shine on you, and may His grace abide with you as you begin a new life together. To better days, Rachel swallows, beaming at her father who winks at her. Turning to her husband, they clink with their glasses. To the best of days of our lives. Ejike beams at his wife. Amen. Rachel says before accepting his kiss, it feels so good to hold nothing back. I love you, not as much as I love you. The sound of metal clanking against a champagned glass brings everyone's attention to the brother of the groom, Ejike's best man, Ekene Okafor. I raise a toast to my brother and my best friend, my hero, Dr. Ejike Okafor. I remember the day you first saw Rachel and how I told you she wasn't your type. I was wrong because I judged with my natural eyes, while you looked with the eyes of your heart. Through the years, I've watched your love for each other play out, with both sadness and expectation, and and today I'm happy to be proven wrong. You two make a beautiful couple, and I'm sure God and the angels in heaven are celebrating your union today as we are here gathered tonight. May the Lord restore unto you, my brother, my sister, the years the canker worms ate up. In Jesus' mighty name, amen. Happy married life, Ejike and Rachel. Happy married life, more clinking of glasses, followed by merry drinking and joyous laughter. Ejike winks at his brother, who beams at him. Absolution, the release from his prison of guilt and doubt into clarity and peace overwhelms him. Joy fills his heart as he looks around at his friends and family who have gathered to celebrate his love. This was lost but now found. Electric, ethereal, explosive. There are three words Rachel would use to describe her first night with her husband, Ejike. The magnetism they shared in bed was something she would never have believed possible without experiencing it herself. They did not simply make love, they made magic. And that to the duo of Shania Twain and Brian White, who sang from the moment on. Lying in bed, thoroughly vanquished and satisfied, Rachel's breathless reliving each moment of their intercourse as though they were still joined intimately, occasionally gasping from the ripples of pleasure coursing through her pulsating parts. Unbelievable, that was incredible. Truly, a day in paradise is better than 1,000 elsewhere. She swallows, eventually turning to her husband, who lies spent beside her, a proud smile on his face. I knew you were the one, he mutters breathlessly. All she mutters, Another wave of pleasure courses through her. Ejike's strong arms draws her close to wrap her in his own body, skin to skin. They are not ashamed. The soundtrack of their lovemaking, Rachel's playlist of love songs by Shania Twain, still plays in the background as Shania sings, "You're Still the One." Rachel had picked out each of the 6 songs specially because of how well they told their love story. She closes her eyes, basking in the melody and lyrics. Ejike kisses her shoulder blades, sending shivers down her spine. Do you know you can handle another round of that tonight? He swallows. The mere thought tantalizing. Slowly she nods her head. Just give me a moment. She breathes to catch her breath. A new song begins to play, The Woman in Me. Closing her eyes, Rachel doesn't know when she's carried away into the deepest sleep of her life, and her husband soon meets her in the land of dreams. Rachel stares in bed into a room lit by sunlight at noonday. She can hardly believe she slept for so long. Sitting up, she stretches and yawns, her body thoroughly relaxed from the best sleep and the best sex of her life. A smile curves her lips when she sees the breakfast has already been set on the table by her bed. Wow, she could get used to this. She's pleased to realize that last night's soundtrack is still on repeat, playing softly through the sound system. Shania is singing When You Kiss Me, and Rachel beams as her husband walks in from the bathroom. A hand towel, his clothing goes to her. He goes to her, climbing on the bed, discarding the garments. He kisses her hungrily. Good morning, my wife. Good morning, my husband. I love this your playlist. Rachel gasps as he lays her back on the bed, smooching on her neck. She giggles as it's ticklish. Stop, she cries. When she starts to nibble, laughing like a little girl. It hurts. She chastises playfully. He stops and smiles at her, looking into her eyes. He mutters, I've been waiting for you to wake up so we can do round 2. Rachel giggles, after breakfast, honey. I'm starved. Ejike nods, giving her lips a quick kiss. You're mine forever. Rachel nods, happy to be wanted, desired, loved. When when at the time when at the timing she watches Ejike as he serves her a plate of scrambled eggs, bacon, sausages, and pancakes. After breakfast, they shower together and explore their magic there too. It's just as steamy, their bodies locked in a dance that only they knew the move to. Tears of joy mixed with hot sweat, steam, and rushing hot water, heating and cleansing their body all at once. Oh God, Rachel, Ejike cries with his release. Rachel shivers in her arms despite the heat. Her lips crave his, and she captures them in her mouth, riding the next wave of ecstasy to fulfillment. Breathless, they cling to each other as the hook to "You Got Away" plays through the speakers in the bathroom. A perfect moment. In the afternoon, they take a helicopter from the manor to the international airport for their flight to the island of Mauritius. Their family and friends, still enjoying the luxurious of the manor, gather to wave them off. Rachel waves at Ihotu and Doc Jap, who came with their baby for the wedding weekend. Even Isaiah came to celebrate her marriage. Rachel and Ejike wave back at him. Him and Lulu, who's by his side. As they lift off the ground, Rachel feels her happiness soar also. I feel like a princess. That's because you are. I mean, like the ones in the fairy tales who overcome natural and supernatural obstacles to get their ever after. The satisfaction is overwhelming. Ejike smiles. You are allowed to be this happy, Rachel. Enjoy it. Don't try to understand it. He beams at him. Thank you for understanding. Ejike kisses her forehead, his arms around her as they fly into the heavens. With a changeover in Dubai, they arrive at the final destination on the eve of Rachel's 40th birthday. Ejike surprises her by presenting her with two-tier birthday cake on the plane. Rachel throws her arms around him, overjoyed. You remembered, she squeals. How could I forget? He chuckles. And this one that you picked our anniversary date 2 days before your birthday. God will deal with me severely if I ever forget either. Rachel laughs. It wasn't intentional, honest. Yeah, Ejike teases, pinching her side and laughing when she giggles. Rachel blows out her 4 candles, one of each decade. The cabin crew share the cake with all passengers at her request. Later that night, they enjoyed dinner by the ocean at their hotel. Laughter, smiles, gentle teasing, playful banter characterized their time together. Even in the silences, their hearts are locked together, at home with each other. There's no doubt in Rachel's mind that this time she made the right choice. 9 months later, husband and wife are in Echo Atlantic home, preparing to attend the wedding of two of their friends. Rachel is delighted to be dressed in matching ashoke with her husband. She admires him through her vanity mirror, rolling up his agbada proudly as she gets professionally made up for the occasion. Though neither of them is a native of Yoruba land, their friends marrying are from the same place, even bearing similar names, Fola and Folo. After their chance meeting at Sheun's wedding, their initial attraction grew into a deep friendship built on mutual faith. When the makeup artist is done tying her gele, Rachel stands to admire her reflection in the mirror. Ejike comes behind, wrapping her in his arms, kissing her nape. You are too beautiful, my wife. Rachel beams. She turns in his arms. I think we'll make the most beautiful babies, don't you think? He beams, nodding. Are you ready to start trying? Rachel rubs her head on his agbada, avoiding his eyes. Well, I think it's too late for that because you are past 40. No, she subjects, feigning offense. My age isn't the issue. You think I'm too old. I'm only 45. Age isn't an issue for men anyway. Age is, what's it, baby? Finally, she looks at his eyes. We can't try because I'm already pregnant. What? He guffles. Exhilarated, he carries her up into the air, twirling her in his arms. Oh my God, Rachel, when? When did you find out? Yesterday. I took a test, she swallows. So you are happy, you are happy. Happy, darling, I'm ecstatic, he chuckles, kissing her lips. He adds, thank you, baby, I love you so much. Rachel wraps her hands around Ejike's neck. She believes him. To date, she has heard nothing, but not even a murmur or a whisper of something bad about Ejike. But even if she had, she would hardly believe the gossip because she knows this man that loves her from the depths of his soul. She trusts him, and in that she's safe and at peace. I love you too. The kids are still watching TV when their parents return from their outing. 5-year-old Esther has become a bookworm. She's reading a book in her favorite spot, the beanbag in her mini library, while Ezekiel is playing games on his phone. They both rise to hug and kiss their mom and dad. What did you have for dinner? Rachel asked them when they returned to their former activities. Beans and dodo, Esther answers. Okay, Ezzy, 10 more minutes, okay? I'm sure you've been on that phone all day. I still have 30 minutes, Dad, he replies. It's the weekend. Okay, 30 minutes. Ejike confirms on his phone, which has the parental control app. Yep, 29 minutes until the phone locks itself. He smiles. Your mom and I will be upstairs. There's no response from the kids, who are back to their usual activity. And Rachel smiles. She can hear Bisi tidying up the kitchen. She lifts her wrapper as she takes the stairs up to the penthouse suite. On getting into the room, Rachel kicks off her shoes and plumps on the bed. She massages her aching feet. I'm so happy for Richard and Dayo. After struggling to have their first baby, she's already pregnant again. God is so good. Yes, he is. I'm still reeling from your announcement today. Ejike pulls off his agbada while kicking his shoes and throws it on the sofa. Yeah, I think we are even due about the same time. Rachel mutters as she removes her gele and blouse. Pulling off his trousers, he sits beside his wife in his vest and boxer shorts, taking hold of her foot. You are already planning your pregnant mommy's retreat, aren't you? She laughs out loud. You know me too well. Oh, that feels good. She adds in response to his massage. Yeah, well, I don't want you going anywhere. I can't come, he says. He replies. You know I have to take care of my baby. Besides, don't you think Rachel unties her wrapper, pulling it off completely, so she is more comfortable. So I was thinking, AGK swallows, before baby comes, maybe you and I can take a trip. Rachel nods, smiling. Sounds good. Where? We can go to Miami or Vegas, anywhere really. But I'm keen on America. I'd like us to spend a day or two in Chicago with my mom. Though a reserved woman, Mrs. Okafor has created room in her heart for Rachel, and they communicate regularly. No doubt she will be thrilled to learn of Rachel's expectancy. Like an like any mother-in-law, she has been dropping subtle hints about her anticipation. Okay, Rachel nods. I've been to Vegas. Vegas it is, letting go of her foot. Ejike draws his wife to himself, his lips gently caressing hers. We can go for our anniversary and your birthday week. Cool? Rachel nods, revealing in the wonderful sensation his touch is producing. Ejike lifts her to sit astride him, wrapping her legs around his waist. He buries his face in her full bosom, breathing her in. He'll never get enough of this. With one hand, he unhooks her bra before sending it flying across the room. Rachel giggles as they eagerly wriggle out of the remaining garments. They separate them. that separate them. She looks down into her husband's face and his eyes lock with hers, just as their aching parts unite, eliciting a gasp from her lips. But she doesn't look away from him as they make sweet love in their bedroom, seeing each other for who they really are. The epilogue, Saturday, 17th September 2002, Las Vegas. I'm telling you, I just got the country yesterday with my wife. I could not have done all those things you are accusing me of, AGK refused, exasperated. So you are not from Chicago, the detective continues. On the third, I have a home there, but I live in Nigeria. I haven't been here in years. What are you doing in Vegas? What type of question is that? What do you people do in Vegas? I came to have fun with my wife. The interrogating officers laugh. Well, until we find this person you claim has stolen your identity, we are going to the only thing consistent about him is his name. Well, your name, the detective says to Ejike, who's at the back of his unofficial vehicle with his pregnant wife, Rachel. The Ejike squeezes his wife's hand. They have a feeling they know who the impostor is. But like the officers, they are in edge, eager for him to be caught at last, brought to justice. Do you, Belinda Morgan, take this man, Ejike Okafor, to be your lawfully wedded husband? As the minister speaks, the beautiful bride beams at her groom, who is dressed in a white shirt and black dungarees. He's sexy and handsome, and she can't wait for him to do all the things he promised he'll do to her on their wedding night. He's looking at her now, his dark eyes wide with expectation, his expression urging, prompting her to. She giggles, realizing they've been waiting for her response. I do. Do you, Ejike Okafor, take this woman? I do. The groom responds. You have to let me finish, sir. Do you, Ejike Okafor, take this woman, Belinda Morgan, to be your lawfully wedded wife, to cherish for this day forth in sickness? Yes, I do, he bites. The minister is taken aback. He looks at the besotted bride, who simply beams at her groom, her hands clasping one of the cheap bouquets. The small chapel sells a couple looking to tie the knot. Her gold sequin mini dress glitters in looking to tie the knot. Glitters in the dimly lit room. They are not an unusual sight for their business, but sometimes his conscience likes to make an appearance. The bride and groom both turn to him and pronounce their marriage. He swallows. By the power, freeze! The small chapel is overrun with police officers pointing guns. The bride drops her bouquet in shock. The minister raises his hands, frightened. The only one apparently unperturbed by the disruption is the groom. Turning around, he asks, "What's the problem, officers? Can't you see I'm getting married?" I said, "Freeze." Dog lifts his hands up, a cheeky smile on his face. Two officers apprehend him and slaps cuffs on his wrist while reading him his rights before leading him out of the wedding chapel. "This is America. I have rights. Do you know who I am? My father will sue all of you." "No problem, Mr. Olumide. We know who you are now." As they proceed to his arresting officer's vehicle, Dog is positive he sees Ejike at the back of a car. He keeps turning back to get another look while being pulled in the direction of his car. The officer lays his hand on Dog's head to ease him at the back seat before slamming the door on his stunned face. As they drive to the station, they pass the unmarked vehicle. Dog sees Rachel, clear as day. His teeth grind as the police officer's car speeds to their headquarters. Dog's mind is spinning from what he has seen, what it might mean. He has to get out of these cuffs. With his trusty pin, he manages to unhook his cuffs, thinking it's better he escapes before he gets to the police station. He uses his legs to kick the barricade between him and the officer sitting in front. The car swerves while the police officer in the passenger seat pulls out a gun. Another angry kick. The passenger seat bumps forward. The gun goes off, missing Dog by an inch. The officer behind the wheel alerts his team of the new development through their radio, and more police vehicles surrounded Dog's car. "Sit back," the officer with the gun says, pointing it directly at Dog. "I swear I will shoot you." Dog puts his hands up, conceding defeat. He's not quite ready to die. 30 minutes later, he is transferred into an armored transit van guarded by two armed policemen. "With that stunt you pulled, you are lucky to be alive." One of the guards sneers after Dog is secured in his seat. "Or should I say unlucky?" He laughs. The other looks at Dog pointedly. "Someone loves you up there." Dog pulls his face in a grimace, looking up, his vision obstructed by the ceiling of the van. "Yeah, right. If someone loved him, should he not have escaped? But now he's been detained. He knows he's been taken where he will not easily escape for a very, very long time. But however long it takes, life has taught him all he needs is an opportunity." He smirks. The end. Out of the Darkness by Doubra Yeri. My life lessons, my story. Forward out of the darkness. My father was a great storyteller. He loved to tell us stories and could easily have been a great in the best of Africa's oral storytelling tradition. One of the first thoughts that hit me when he passed away in January 2014 was, "Oh Lord, he's taking so much history away from with him and in his head." Some of his regulars were Yoruba folklore, but many others were personal, local, and national history, including his flashbacks of his life growing up in early 20th century Ikorodu. There were also tales of politics in the day before, during and after the independence, and inside stories of the heady days of the Second Republic. Daddy also regaled us with stories that painted a rich oral history of the town he loved so well. How our ancestors have been Ijebu migrants from Shagam area who settled and flourished in Okorodu. Under the colonial masters, their farm settlement later became Ikorodu and produced many firsts in terms of educational and professional accomplishments in Lagos State. Indeed, my father had a way with words and enjoyed weaving them in a rich tapestry, quite apart from the engaging manner in which he encountered the experience and told age-old stories. He often found a way to interlace life's lesson into the stories he told. That is, if they didn't come with a strategy made as one or as most African folktale tends to. Chapter 1. Take a bold step. Taking a bold step requires paying a price. It requires sowing a seed. Adebayo Oteju. Taking a bold step. The journey of life starts from infancy. The very day you give birth to a child, or male or female, the child's journey has begun. Taking a bold step means when your child comes to awareness, an awareness which makes you, for instance, to know the difference between hot and cold. When babies are about 6 months, they can only scream when you pour hot water on them because their cognitive senses or happenings around them. But when they are about 5 or 6 years old, they will all begin to develop a sense of belonging and can start taking steps aimed at shaping them for the future. This, however, gets molded by the kind of parental guidance or training as they get. The kind of guidance they get determines how far they would go in life. Using myself as a case study, I was between the ages of 5 and 7. I knew where I was going in life. I started making choices as early as that stage. This was because I have several complications and negative environmental influences while growing up. The Bible says in Deuteronomy that today I have given you the choice between life and death. Choose life so that you and your children may live. I chose life at a very young age. I started removing every limit based on all assignments given to me. One of the events that shaped my life was the story of my mother. My mom was an entrepreneur to the core who went all out to teach us that hard work and diligence are the major ingredients to achieve life success. She had about 3 chains of business, although these ventures were mostly petty trading. Whenever there was a market day in Ikorodu, my mother would secure space to retail our products. My life and that of my older siblings started at Surulere, Lagos. I pray one day one of them will document what happened to us before we moved to Ikorodu. I remember there were the Iworo market, Ajino market, Ebute market, where traders usually display their wares. There were at least 4 markets in Ikorodu that had different days of trading. In a week, my mother never missed a chance to trade at any of these markets, even though I was barely 6 to 7 years of age at this time. I and my other siblings would follow my mother to these places of trade and help her tend to our wares. At some of the markets, we sold household items and consumables. We even owned a shop around Obunale Market, where we retailed drinks, having the best Gari Ijebu in the store. We also held bi-weekly market days at Ojo, a journey of 3 hours from Ikorodu. Remember, at this point, I made a decision on how I wanted my life to be. I took a bold step, which lived with me ever since. No matter the age you are, you need to determine how your future will be. Bill Gates, Mark Zuckerberg, the rest of them left school with a purpose. This requires you to break away from the norm. Today, we all refer to these achievers without recourse to their bold steps that they took. In advertising world, there is a cliche which says one must think out of the box, but my own guiding principle has always been to work and act like there is no box, because in actual fact, there is no box except the ones we create and build in our heads. In the day of our fathers, there were taboos that we were exposed to. A lot of seemingly bizarre things are happening, but will it get better? I doubt it so much. But the point is to make the best of any situation we find ourselves. The golden goal of the whole discussion, which culminated into my decision to write this book, Out of Darkness, is to be able to tell young people and the coming generation that it is very important for them to take the bold step. The Bible in Philippians instructs you to work out your salvation. Your in the context is a specific term referring to you as an individual. In every moment of reckoning, it is only you who would answer for your own decisions. Take that bold step requires as individualistic endeavor and individualistic commitment and a personal conviction, because nobody will take the decision for you. Our teachers and lecturers, parents and guardians are sent by God to lead us, push us to that place of glory, but it takes your personal decision and subsequent commitment to getting there. For every stage you pass through and every challenge you go through, you must decide to take a bold step. Taking a bold step is a seed factor. It's like a computer which is designed to store and bring forth what's inputs there. It is like systemic GIGO, garbage in, garbage out factor, which cumulates into the choices we make. Environmental issues may prevent you from taking some steps in life, but take a bold step is a decision you are supposed to make based on what you are exposed to educationally and socially. The values you have decided to cherish in life. I discovered a secret very early in life. I discovered that the only limit in which you can do is you, yes, you. One incident which inspired me a great deal in the later part of my growing up years was an occurrence during my time in NYC camp at Kubwa, Abuja. There was this friend of mine who taught me what I call the practical aspect of taking a bold step. Femi was a superlative go-getter. While we struggled in camp, he set his eyes on gold, networking with high class in Abuja. When it was time for posting, while we all were struggling to get posted to either Central Bank of Nigeria or government ministry, Akin had a different idea. He kept telling us he was a trained architect and he will not settle for any place of primary assignment other than an architectural firm. What Akin did was to again seek the audience of some young architects who had just established a firm in Abuja and used a small kiosk as his office. The guys were 4 in number, handling lots of private and government projects in Abuja. They also had a sister who was close to the people in the government. So Akin went to them and asked to be their draftsman. The primary focus on his new endeavor was not salary, but an opportunity to own his architectural skill in a professional environment. He eventually held his own 1-year service there and was retained after because fortunes of the architectural firm had grown a great deal. In fact, before we rounded off our service here, Akin had brought a Mercedes-Benz saloon car. Today, Akin is one of the most prosperous people I know. What he did was to take advantage of his environment, using educational know-how and native intelligence to conquer. During the same period, I was combining my NYSC with low-scale businesses. I sold clothes at that time and learned a lot from Akin, who was one of my major customers. What the young man did was to remove all the limits beclouding his growth, and he took bold decisions which have gotten him where he is today. My story at Ikorodu Microfinance Bank is one that should inspire people. 10 years ago, I was a mere vendor who had the bank as a client. I would come to them seeking printing jobs. I discovered lapses. About 5 years after this period, I became the bank boss, the executive coordinator, and ensured that I changed all these things I thought were wrong when I was just a vendor who printed tellers and receipts. Taking a bold step requires paying a price. It requires sowing a seed. A young person must ask the question, what is the required bold step I need to take to get to my destination? I once listened to a successful entrepreneur who said, for 5 years, the longest hours I stayed in bed was 5 hours. That is pure sacrifice. Something must go for the aim you have set for yourself. There is always a price to pay. We should all just pray towards not paying the premium price, which is death, especially at a young age. One of the greatest decisions I made in my life was I will not fail. I made the decision as a pupil at the African Bethel Primary School in Ikorodu, and it has been my life's guide ever since. I also made a decision to be among the top of the academic sound group. It didn't matter if I couldn't fall into the first or third category, but I had to be somewhere close to the best, if not the best. The problem with many people today is that they settle for what is convenient. They accept fate without giving a fight. Many are scared to leave the place of their birth despite not making any headway there. You need to take that bold step, leave the town, challenge the system, but avoid crime as it might be the clog in the wheel towards the attainment of top-level growth. The summary of taking a bold step is you make up your mind and doing the unthinkable. Sacrifice and endurance. Not taking a risk is a risk itself. Your reward or next level, which makes up what will happen to you tomorrow, is the seed factor of the steps you are taking today. We all appreciate the successes of people like Usain Bolt, Anthony Joshua, and the likes, but we know the rigorous practice regime they go through. Do you know the energy sapping training they go through? As I write this book, Anthony Joshua is in the forest training for his next fight. So the question I want to put out to every young person out there is that, what are you sowing now? What books are you reading now? For the man who lost sleep to achieve his goals that required a lot of sacrifices, he had to ensure tiredness and still carry on despite his body seeking more sleep. These days, young people tend to sleep more and complain for the remaining time they are not sleeping. Young people also need to realize that they need to break the norm and stop being comfortable at the level they are. Some people get low-paying jobs and they get comfortable simply because they believe they are lucky, and there are many jobless people out there. However, the truth is you can always do better. The Holy Bible in the book of Genesis illustrates that a man has 4 streams of income. A man should have a job and also have work. The difference is that the job is gotten after obtaining education or apprenticeship, while work comes from your vision, mission, and purpose as an individual. You can be fired from the job, but nobody can take your work away from you. While the job comes with a reward called salary, the reward for the work is the fulfillment of purpose of life in life. All these can be converted into income-generating ventures. However, the first step to actualizing all this objectives is to take a bold step. Chapter 2, you can do it. Life is about overcoming challenges, and every stumbling block is a block to step ahead. You can do it. Yes, you can do more than you think you can do. Adebayo Oteju, 2019. You can do it. One of the things I was able to learn very early in life was the ability to overcome the imposed fear factor. During my days in secondary school, one of the constraints that we had was preparing for West African Examination Council phase. Then the anxiety from the exam was so bad that our brothers and sisters gave us a lot of fear by calling it dreadful names like Baba Yaba, which was seen as no-go area. Terrifying adjectives were fixed on the examination, thus creating a self-defeating mentality among the young generation. Another dreaded exam was JAMB, Administration Matriculation Board, because the examination body was also turned into a monument to be visited with trepidation. We were told our faces we were told to our faces we could not pass JAMB. To make matters worse, one day during our usual sports day in class 3, a classmate wore the branded t-shirt of NYSC, National Youth Service Corps, belonging to his brother, to the chagrin of a teacher who taught us and felt offended and beat the boy mercilessly. Many of the dumbfounded students could not place a reason as to why the student was being beaten for wearing a t-shirt. They later got to understand that at the time, the said teacher had only been able to get a teacher's training college certification because his parents could not afford to finance university education. Hence, his ability to participate in the youth service scheme. He said he had been working all his life to be able to finish university, get the opportunity to serve his country, and wear the branded NYC t-shirts with pride. With children numbering about 20 from my dad, I broke the barrier by being the first to go to university, despite being the middle child in our hierarchy of birth. Such unguided atmosphere, like the above, often dampens the can-do spirit of a willing youth. But as a determined young man, I made up my mind that despite these constraints, I can make it. I would not allow any negative narration that said I could not pass WAEC and JAMB to hold me down. The courage to set the pace by breaking from the negative notions that had restricted the children of my father to majorly NCE, National Council of Education holders, had a wider effect on my younger siblings and cousins, began to see the possibility of attaining a pedestal of knowledge. My focus and determination birthed a new zeal in my brothers and sisters today. We have success stories all around. My cousin Kazim Abatan, during my last trip to the USA in June 2019, recently told me that life changed forever with the singular decision he took to relocate to Ikorodu and rewrite his O-level and JAMB. Today, Kazim is an accountant with an oil firm in the United States of America. His turning point was the can-do spirit he got from his own will, not to be constrained by negative postulations. There are many others who followed suit. Babajide Oteju, Muhyiddin Abaton, Waliu Abaton, Bimpe Oteju, almost among others. They were determined to be better than the system they grew up in, and better they are now. The can-do spirit does not resonate with education. When a need arises to do something, I go out to do it. Sometimes we need to ask ourselves, why do people resign to fate when they are confronted by seemingly intractable problems or challenges? The best of opportunity that has happened to the current generation is the internet. If we had access to the internet during our growing up years, maybe I wouldn't have gone to university. You don't need to go to 4 walls of university to become a graduate these days. The internet brings education and knowledge to our doorstep. Unfortunately, our youth are using it for very wrong reasons. I recently made a postulation while training at a gathering that I am legit to Yahoo. I'm too legit to Yahoo. The Nigerian system has put us in a cage, tilting our reasoning that we must go to the university to make it. If you put 20 youths together, 17 of them have internet data. But what do they use their data focus on? In the form of enlightenment and exposure, there are hundreds of progressive engagements that can be carried out today without particularly earning a university degree. Where such is needed, there is a National Open University and numerous online certification award courses. even from abroad. Although this way to secure scholarship, indeed, this is an urgent need to focus on the mindset of today's youth, who are tomorrow's leaders. There is also a need for reorientation of the mindset of young people as regards university education by virtue of our population and an annual intake of students for university education. There is a huge backlog of students who cannot make it to the university system. The government should be innovative enough to bring a mob pool to take care of the affected population. If not, the state will be enabling the raising of youths without positive value. The Nigerian education curriculum is faulty in terms of designing courses structures that address the need of the nation. We have embroiled in the cuts and paste syndrome, with no solution solving intent beneath the course and degrees we offered at the university. School curriculums and courses should be designed to solve societal needs and breed decent and responsible citizens. It's not surprising that there are lots of depression cases due to the unending pressure to earn certificates, thus leading people they commit academic fraud, which under various euphemisms called runs, OG, Expo, Igbo, Chips, etc. It is not a shame for us as a country to have our examination bodies discussing withholding results. Do they withhold results abroad? Even parents are capable of this shameful act of bribing examination officers for their words to scale through. Tertiary education is good, but at this age, the internet and data have revolutionized learning today. Today, many things can be learned without going to the university. As a photography enthusiast, I learned everything I need to know on YouTube. This knowledge has gotten me several gigs, including an opportunity to earn money while training others. There is need to find homegrown answers to the barrage of predicaments befalling us as a nation and people. Young people need to look inward and kindle spirit to liberate the current future generations. There are millions of things that can be done without going to the university. Agriculture is a good goal anytime. I recently equipped myself with knowledge on how to rear goats for commercial purposes. I might not have to do the daily manual work because I can get the labor to do that. We might understand the four walls of the classroom cannot accommodate everyone because our skill sets are different. It is worrisome that the decadence of the Nigerian system has gotten so bad that people try to buy university admission and the ability to manufacture distinction for our students with nobody putting them to check. Our educational system is now a theater of absurdities. For young people, I think there's an urgent need to work out your salvation at the chaotic system resolves. You should know what you need to do, how to go about it. Having decided what to do, you must be bold enough to take the step ahead. Getting a no or disappointment in your chosen endeavor is a beautiful answer. You can get loads of rejections or only to prepare you for the big bite. Who said there would be challenges? There is a clear distinction between sales and marketing. Any dumb can sell a ready product on open display at a shop, but real marketing starts after rejection. Only you are equipped with the fact you can convince your would-be clients. You will surely get a deal for everything you plan to do in this life. There's always 3 good, acceptable, and genuine excuses not to do it. Just think about it. Whenever you want to start a creative initiative, The odds are against you. You are always higher. The challenges are always there. So also you can do it. Spirit lurking around the corner of your inner self, giving you a choice, being allowing the excuse to overrun your initiative of doing it. I know someone who has invested millions in putting together a community driven app, but yet to have a breakthrough. Is he discouraged? No, he's taking his time to invest more. The same person has invested other business that crashed or never took off after spending lots of money.
My experiences with failure are not only about other people, as I have also experienced it at varying times. I bought a drone in America to use for a commercial purpose. The idea was to give it to an operator who would rent it out for 50,000 naira and pay me 40,000 naira while he takes 10,000 naira. On the drone's first outing, it crashed. All my investment was lost. There are always choices to be made. Electricity will not be available at every time, at least not in the immediate future. So there is no point waiting for the electricity distribution company to always provide power. You need to factor this into your plan. Nobody said life will be a bed of roses. There will always be limitations, but where have you taken your ideas to? All around you, there are multi-billion naira ideas with people who do not have the courage to take a bold step. So they don't even know if the ideas exist or can they execute the idea if they are aware of its existence. Excelling requires a lot of fighting spirit. You must be willing to sacrifice for yourself and your children. Those are considered as touts or half-learned are empowering their children to be better equipped to share the job spaces with your children tomorrow. If you do not raise giants in the world of today, they will be trampled upon. We are in a dire situation and our thinking must reflect that. The space at the top is getting narrower by the day. Every individual born of a woman has his own stumbling blocks. Mine was money. I would not be where I am today if I had access to the kind of funds I required. While I was in Africa, Bethel Primary School, Ikorodu, we were given a list of books to buy. This was immediately after Governor Lateef Jakonde aborted administration of 1984, when all the educational freebies students enjoyed had just been stopped. Unfortunately for me, the time the book list was given to us coincided with the period my dad had just married two new wives. So the money to purchase the books was not forthcoming, and my mom could not help either. However, there was a boy whose father was a herbalist in town and could afford to buy all the books, and even the ones out of our curriculum. Although that did not give the boy any edge, as I still see him roaming the streets, I can imagine what would have happened to me if I had been able to afford the books. During our growing up years, people saw us as rich kids in town, not knowing what we suffered behind the facade of our parents' world. The contradiction was unbelievable. Another stumbling block that comes to mind was at the University of Ilorin during my first semester, when I could not afford the textbooks, particularly Elements of Banking by Femi Adekoye. To pass, I had to borrow the book from a friend called Shino. To ensure I had a good head start, I borrowed the book ahead without being lackadaisical about my studies. I also challenged my parents and uncle for not buying books for me, despite being obviously rich enough to do so. But rather than have a change of heart, my father stopped giving me any money. This was a real trying period in my life trajectory. I had lost my mom, who happened to be a support structure for me. And each time I was holidaying in Lagos, I begged from one place to the other to get enough money to return to Ilorin. Those days, we traveled with Kwara Express, costing about 25 naira per trip. At the end of each trip, I usually had less than 1,000 naira on me to survive on for the semester. One big lesson here is that nobody could see me as a struggling student. My clothes are neat. I was a member of Elite Club, Rotaract Club. I was the club secretary general in my department, 100 level to 400 level. Everybody knew me for one good or bad reason. I was active in student union. My academic engagement was far above average due to too many activities and business engagement. I had great friends at support team. Akin Soya, Tunde Etomi, Benga Eleshekun, Biodun Adewumi, The Money Man, Shegun, and many others. One day I went to Babaoko, a popular commercial hub in Ilorin, to meet Kolije and sold video and audio cassettes. I observed a void, which was that Kolije sold mostly old records, as new releases could only be gotten in Lagos. So I told Kolije I could get him recent albums. The anxious Kolije wanted to follow me to Lagos, but I persuaded him not to. I eventually went alone. Based on trust, Holiday gave me 3,000 naira and I journeyed to Idumota in Lagos to get the cassettes. That was a major turning point in my life as I became a cassette merchant, helping Collegiate to increase sales. Following the success of the first trip, Collegiate joined me on the second trip and we lodged at the New World Hotel at Allen Avenue. We bought hundreds of the latest audio and video cassettes to Ilorin and we made lots of money in the process. So, like most young people of today, lack of money as a stumbling block for me, but due to the tenacity of purpose, I was able to turn the situation around. During my interaction with Collie I realized a couple of people come all the way from Kaduna to buy cases from him instead of going to Lagos. Because of my family background, I had cousins who took merchandise up north from Lagos. I saw the opportunity to expand the cassettes business to Kaduna. So during that year's long vacation, I took all the money that I had and invested it in the cassettes wholesale business in Kaduna, thus developing a new business frontier. By my second year in the university, armed with my background with Interact Club during my secondary school days, I joined Rotaract Club, where I later became the secretary and public relations officer. With leadership comes more responsibilities and opportunities. In 1991, when I was looking for a vacation job, I plunged into the Rotarian network by walking up to architect Taiwo Kara at his 90 Obafemi Awolowo Way office in Ikeja and telling him that I would like to work with him for 3 months. I told him I need a vacation job, and his first instinct was to call my uncle Sab Oteju, who told him to give me the job since I came for myself. Architect Taiwo Kara gave me Architect Taiwo Kara gave me the internship to work as an office boy, but I changed the nomenclature by calling myself an estate officer, since that was the nature of the business. It is a simple case of the words giving you lemons and you making lemonade out of it. In line with my new self-assigned office role, I took a list of all the houses the company was managing, designed new publicity banners for them, and went to town to be the company's ambassador by placing the banners at all the outlets. Talk of making the best of available opportunities. After 2 weeks on the job, Architect Kara told me to start living with him. When he discovered I could drive, I became one of his personal chauffeur at a very young age. This gave me the privilege to attend high-class meetings and parties with him. The meetings also became an eye-opener for me, and everything I learned about developing estates started from my days of living with architect Kara. Sheun, Tosin, Sheyi, Nife, Tolu, Bolu, Ore, and all success stories today. The value you bring to every network determines your network. Always bring something extra to every relationship. Life is about overcoming challenges, and every stumbling block is a block to step ahead. You can do it. You can do more than you think you can do. People can do things they never thought they could once someone leads them on. Chapter 3. The future is your choice. If you don't know what you are doing, you will do anything. Adebayo Oteju. We live in a society that defines you by the course you read. At the university, the parents that gave birth to you, the religion your parents exposed you to. Majority of us did not choose the religion we are practicing. We were not given the choice to choose the religion we ordinarily would have loved to embrace. That is why, amazingly, you find young and energetic men and women in this 21st century worshiping idols. It is what they were supposed to by their parents. These people have erroneously been indoctrinated to believe that idol worshipping is their family culture. Some among us are just realizing that the faith we have in our Maker and the way of life we choose to go beyond religion. I found out early in life that the future is in my hands. The limitations many of us have in our lives, vis-a-vis career and choice, are based on what we are exposed to. Some were compelled to become lawyers, and they ended up becoming charge and bail lawyers. Some were compelled to become medical doctors, but if you go to the general hospital today, you will see them bad-tempered, snappish, unfulfilled, grumpy, and wappish. Some were compelled to be bricklayers because their father railroaded them into bricklaying cohesion. The fact that you follow your father to building sites to carry pom building pan does not mean you are limited to becoming only a bricklayer in life. Some were condemned to become agberos because they followed their father to the motor parks. Some were compelled to sell rice because that was a trade their mothers bequeathed them. Some were compelled to become cultists because their fathers were head of Ogboni and other life like groups, traditional courts. Some were constrained to become politicians because their fathers were politicians and they ended up being failed politicians. That your father succeeded as a politician does not automatically translate to you being a good politician. Many end up making wrong choices based on societal exposure and pressure. You are not defined by what your parents or society has exposed you to. Look inwards and ask yourself, what do I want to do? You can only find fulfillment in your inherent cravings and dispositions that are honest and noble. That is the assignment that has been given to you, not by man, but by God. Your innate ability will spur you towards the actualization of your dreams. The future is defined by the vision you have chiseled in your heart that drives the purpose and focuses you have for yourself. Erroneously, young minds think funds and empowerment are the major encumbrances to success. What you need to first acquire is a skill set and mindset to succeed. Funds and empowerment programs will always be there till thy kingdom come. From time immemorial, I have been conversant with agricultural loan disbursements, N-Power, and land allocations in Nigeria. The question is, have the youths and populace fared better economically since we have been on this jamboree? The answer is no. Many who collected the loans either embezzled or failed in their agricultural venture, while lots of lands allocated for agriculture has been turned to private residences. The foregoing illustrates that the heart, which is the innermost part of their being, is not connected to the venture. Empowerment and employment trust fund might run into similar problems if the human factor aspect and capacity are not carefully orientated to serve a good purpose. When you fund the wrong enterprise, there can never be a tangible result or profit. It takes knowledge, skill set, deftness, dexterity, and cleverness to effectively and profitably run an enterprise. Some people have exterminated their future due to youthful exuberance. I can give you an analogy of a man that I know. While we were young, he was known as an incorrigible troubleshooter. Within his circle of friends, he would always ignite disagreements that would escalate into street brawls, so he could be seen fighting and defeating his opponents. There was no week he would not be involved in one scuffle or the other. This led him into prison when he killed someone during a local festival in Ikorodu. A minor altercation with a fellow participant during the festival led to mutual stabbings, and unfortunately, my man's opponent died from his stab wounds. He was subsequently charged and convicted for murder. After serving his jail term, he came out of the prison to become a nuisance to himself, his family, and the society at large. He died about 6 years ago, leaving 3 wives and 12 children. One can only imagine the manner of liabilities and challenge those children could constitute to the extended family and society today. As a young man living in a chaotic environment full of negative influences, you need to make up your mind about your future. You have to separate the society, your parents, and your negative friends from your dreams and vision. Even at the university level, there are many negative influences and distractions that tend to derail you from your dreams and vision. It is your take to be firm and decisive about yielding to them. Distractions and negative influences like cultism, drugs, prostitution, and academic truancy abound in our ivory towers. It is for he or she who wears the shoe to make decisions that align with his or his futuristic goals and aspirations, because the future is in your hands. We all probably heard about what happened to the 17-year-old boy, a fresh undergraduate of the University of Abuja, who paid for his friends to go to the swimming pool outside the University of Abuja. The boy got drowned in the swimming pool, and his friends scampered from the scene without giving any helping hand to their drowning pal, abandoning his dead body in the pool. It was the closed circuit television of the hotel that identified the friends of the deceased. Be choosy about the friends you mingle with. On my own part, where I am now is the best list of where I want to be. I have my goals and aspirations, devoid of political attachment. Most times, people get it wrong that you have to hold a political office before you can be relevant in life. I do not belong to this school of thought, and this has been my guiding principle, despite my deep involvement in the electioneering, electioneering process that led to the crowning of His Excellency Babajide Sanwo-Olu as the governor of Lagos State. Yes, I played a key role at the independent campaign group. I was the head finance, budget and administration for the media department. I did not do it to curry political favor or get an office. It is the same principle and spirit I have deployed to my involvement in Honorable Baba Jimmy's Benson I Care Foundation from its inception. I say it repeatedly at I Care Foundation meetings that I will not print posters if any elective office, for any elective office. Many look at me in bewilderment in view of my position as the Deputy Director General of the foundation. The likes of Aliko Dangote, Femi Otedola, Razak Okoya, Abdul Samad Rabiu, Wale Tinubu, Jim Ovia, John Momo, and many others are critical stakeholders in the nation's socio-economic space without holding political office. That is why my idea of involvement in politics and the polity, the future is in my hands. I will determine what I want to do in the future. I will not be railroaded into doing that I did not plan. Don't be people Don't let people determine for you what your future should be. The big picture I see is in the next 2 years of what I want to do. If you don't define your future, people will give you their own future to run along with. No doubt, natural constraints like parental upbringing, circumstance, location of birth, No doubt, natural constraint like parental upbringing, circumstance, location of birth, and religion will pose as clocks to your wheels of progress. You must, as a matter of determination, brave up to defeat these forces, forces that tend to pull you down. After the age of puberty, a man or woman is no longer tied to the apron strings of his or her parents. At that age, you can no longer give excuses for failure. You must be able to drive your vision and mission in life without recourse to your parents or environmental influences. You should be able to determine and decide what is right from what is wrong. You should know that you don't have to follow the crowd. You can stand out if you're on the right path. I remember my days at Oga High School. Some of my male friends saw having sex with the girls as a thing of pride. They believed having sex with the opposite sex was a way of announcing their arrival into the big league. By the time we were in class 4, now at Oru College, Ikorodu, some of them ended up impregnating some of the girls, thus disrupting their academic and life pursuits. They became fathers at the age of 15 to 18 years. The newly delivered among us, like me, who could who could not summon the courage to have sex with girls, went to their naming ceremonies as Ore Baba Oromo, friends of the celebrator. The society has presented sex to us as freebies. It is left for you to take it or not. The parents of these defaulting students did not help matters. They were willing and happy to embrace the wife and prepared to nurse the child. During the naming ceremony, they bought Ankara and Idumota lace for the couple, paid for DJ, and invited their own friends and club members to the naming ceremony. Consequently, many of the boys did not see impregnating a girl while being in secondary school as a bad thing. Teenage pregnancy became a thing of pride in Ikorodu, and many became husbands and wives without proper marriage. This to me was not ideal. I knew they were not doing the right thing, so I stayed focused and determined to finish my secondary school and graduate from the university before taking about marriage. Indeed, some of the boys and girls could not continue their secondary school education the moment the issue of pregnancy came to the fore. Therefore, I tucked in my dick. Whenever my girlfriend came around, I only allowed him to touch me while I suspended my interaction with them the moment they wanted to go overboard. Once the feeling to penetrate arose, my stop alarm would come alive and I would just run away. Thank God for some good parents that cleared our mess and taught the path of virtue and having to clear focus for the future. I can be explicit because coming out of darkness requires truth and not packaged stories. Rather than dissipate my energy on impregnating a girl, my focus was on how to pass my WAEC West African examination paper. My eyes were targeted on how I could make the required credits in my examination. I knew I might not be able to have 8 credits in WAEC, so I did not deceive myself by aiming for 8 credits. My strategy was directed at getting 5 credits, including mathematics and English. I was able to turn my societal and environmental constraints into a defined developmental agenda of where I am going in life. At every turn in life, constraints and stumbling blocks will crop up. It is for you to determine if you want to join the Jones or keep your eyes on the ball. Post-secondary school, I knew what I wanted to do. I made up my mind early in life to study business administration, having been influenced by my closeness to my mother and partaking in her petty retail businesses. Fortunately for me, aside English and mathematics, I did very well in business method, economics and government. After studying the joint administration and matriculation for me, therefore, when the opportunity arose for me to study sociology, philosophy, etc., I declined. One of the universities that offered business administration was University of Ilorin. Therefore, I knew I had to leave Lagos to fulfill my dream. In 1986, I made my first attempt at getting admission into New Ilorin. Although Lagos State University offered similar courses, the university didn't gel with me. Having finished from Oruru College, I felt going to a state tertiary institution was not the ideal step. Regrettably, I could not gain admission into Uni Ilorin in 1986 because our papers were not complete. I had issues with my maths and English. Therefore, I wrote for a 1-year A-level program, IJMB, Interim Joint Matriculation Board at Kwara Polytechnic. For the IJMB, I only took 2 subjects, mathematics and English, while I retook my WAEC and JAM examination. Fortunately for me, I passed my IJMB and my WAEC, thus scaling the mathematics and English hurdle. At the same period, my JAM result was received and I scored 243. Fantastic score. While in Kwara State, I stayed in the house of Yemisi Asaju. When I got to know a youth corp member serving in my school, Oriu College, she graduated from the University of Ilorin. She was a retractor, thus related with an interactor at Oriu College. We bonded very well. She was one of the ones who encouraged me to choose Uni Ilorin as my university of choice. I am Muyiwa Onabanjo, my friend, brother and partner in all activities, but no crime, stayed with the Asajus. It was with joy and a great sense of fulfillment that I got admitted into the University of Ilorin to study my dream course, Business Administration. The impact of Chief Michael Asaju and his family was tremendous. The impact of Chief Michael Asaju and his family was tremendous. Apart from the shelter, they were a great family that celebrated Christ. Large family, raising godly children, and made abundant food and transportation to school available. I will forever be grateful to the family. Chapter 4. Remove the limit. Always keep your eyes on the gold because gold never fails. But if it does, you can always have silver, which is higher than bronze. Every man, by virtue of who we are, is caged by the necessity of time. The basic wants and demands of life limit its ability to achieve its full potential, except he does the most unlikely. Remove the limit and set his eyes on the gold. For every man that prepares for a competition, there must be an attached purpose, an aim or desired result. What is your focus in life? Are you here for a certificate or participation or to win a medal, like a regular competition? Life must have a purpose and focus. A life without direction or purpose is a life set to ruin. I learned this in a tough way back at the university during an MGS 105 class in the Business Administration Department. Because used to be dreaded back in the days. But I was fortunate to be friends with a lady who happened to be a year ahead of me in the department to help out with the tutorial. I told her specifically that all I needed to do was to get 40% and I would be done with the course. Without mincing words, she told me I was going to score 30% and fail the course, even though she was magnanimous enough with the tutorial. She said I should aim at 70%, and if I fail, I will score probably 50% and still smile out of the course. She went further to state that if my mind is setting at score 40%, she can guarantee that I will retake the course about 3 times before getting the required pass mark. When I sat for the exam, I got 39% and had to retake the course. It was really a big lesson for me about setting goals and keeping eyes on the goal. Today, she's a director with one of Nigeria's top telecommunication companies, living a comfortable life. No doubt, her sense of focus showed since we were in the university, took her to such managerial heights. On the day I saw, I was at her office to solicit for a contract to supply external air conditioners to the telecommunication giant, along with a friend from Holland. I could not even stop to say hello to her because she would have been very blunt in telling me I was not where I ought to be with my innate potentials. This is to me, this to me is an indication to always go for gold and never settle for less. If all you desire in life is average, what we often refer to as let my people go, that's what you will be achieving. Setting attainable goals is the hallmark of future leaders. I desire a good life. I have an idea of my next car and the cost, which is in few millions of naira. I have a desired street in GRA Ikeja that I want my next apartment to be on. My targets are well set out, even though I do not have the money readily available, but it is what I am working towards. Despite my privileged position at Ikorodu Division Microfinance Bank, I have my set goals and exit plans from the bank. I have dreams to own a five-star hotel in Ikorodu, first of its kind, and with our soaring population index, including the rapid development happening in the town. The market is there. Always keep your eyes on the gold because gold never fails. But when it does, you can always have silver, which is higher than bronze. While looking for the gold, you should be conscious of the fact that diamond and platinum are also available. But be wary of living in an elusive world by staying away from the realities that guide your abilities. I remember sending my daughter Oluwatofumi to the United States for her education. It was a tall order, but I still went ahead with the idea based on what I wish to attain for myself and her future. It is about balancing the odds to survive. There are tough choices to be made in order to stay ahead of the pack. It is about the big picture analogy. What do you see? This is 2019. What do you see happening to you by 2020 or 2025? It is what you see that you get. It is about having a clear vision. No activity of man is cast in stone, and you make changes as you go along the line. I remember years ago, I always have a 5 to 10 years plan for my family, an attitude I picked up at the Daystar Christian Center, where every member is told to come up with a yearly plan. I just escalated mine to include my family members, my children and wife, but I have a family goal because I am the driver, pastor, and head of the congregation. In my household, to measure the family goal, we sit in a family meeting to appraise where we are. Only recently, only recently, my daughter came back from America, and my boy, who is about 7 years old, brought it to the attention of the family that we just jettisoned the family meeting for a period of time. He was of the opinion that since we are all around now, the meeting should hold. At the meeting, we reappraised the plans we have, with a special focus on the remaining two children in Nigeria and how their education abroad can be looked into. Why am I saying this? At every point in time, go for gold, either as a family or an individual. There should be a clear there should be a clear definition of where you want to be. You should not settle for the lower part of the rung. Placing your focus on the highest level of possibility that is ahead of you is the pathway to make in a difference. You cannot be preparing for an exam and be praying to have a credit. What happens to those who get distinctions? You want to buy a car as a young man and you do not know the price of the car. You do not even know the price of any car. How then do you want to buy it? When you want to buy anything, the first thing is to know the price, then start considering how to raise the money or possibilities of paying for it. If my plan is to make millions over of this book, my focus will be getting into my network to know the number of people who can purchase or launch at a good price. If through my social media church and political networks, if through my social media, church and political network, I can identify 1,000 people to launch at 10,000 naira, I would raise 10 million naira. But that is not the purpose. The purpose is to influence young people's lives with my personal experience. Some time ago, I was in New York and was making drafts of this book at John F. Kennedy's airport while waiting for my flight to Nigeria. An American lady beside me saw that I was so concentrated on the writing and asked what I was writing about. I told her I will be 50 years soon and would like to share my story with young people directly from my heart. After reading through the notes, she said I have a gift I should nurture. I asked her how much she could pay for a book of this nature, and she said she could support me with $50 as a donation. Let's put our eyes on the gold at any given assignment that is set before us. For me, I think I have quite a number of beautiful colleagues all over the world who from time to time provide useful advice that keeps me on the course. I have never looked down on such useful advice, which helps to birth the spirit of excellence, ultra focused mindset, and diligent planning.
I have become a very practical man in planning every inch of the way. When I leave my house every day, because of the nature of my job, my wife packs extra underwear and other personal items in case I do not come home for the day. When you meet someone, your shoes are one of the things that will check out. I always carry an extra rag to ensure my shoe shines always. It's now a routine for me because I have my eyes on the gold. During the 2019 governorship campaign at the Independent Campaign Group office at Babajide Sanwo-Olu, something very funny happened. A guy approached me and rhetorically asked if I knew that I was the best dressed male in the environment. At another time, the Director General of the campaign, Mr. Tayo Ayinde, who is now the Chief of Staff to the governor, needed me for an assignment. While trying to recollect my name, he said somebody should get him the guy in the media team who is always well dressed. It's about setting a standard that differentiates you from the pack. Everything counts. Talk is cheap. Young people must cultivate the culture of doing. Be a go-to man, a man with solutions. This is how to be relevant. In my workplace, anywhere I'm privileged to work, I put in total dedication and never say no to any given task. I am always ready to seek personal and corporate solution. I saw it as a privilege to be deemed highly relevant to all my superiors. Whatsoever we do, please never settle for less. Every young man must understand that they are better than their current predicament. We need to come to that realization that every man is a product of himself. Everyone is a product of their commitment, and every man is a product of what comes out of him. If you prepare for 20, you get 20 or less. If you prepare for 100, you get 95. It's a matter of going for the goal by removing all foreseeable limits. Not all I have said here will work as planned, as there will be moments of missed targets. I remember in 1999, I started what was called transfer printing in Abuja. During my service here in NYC Cash Office, which happens to be the most strategic office in the organization, a lot of things happened which I consider could be an hindrance to my future plan and dream. Due to this concern, I decided to speak to God. I was coming from Kubwa to work one morning when God spoke to me to go and print Jesus is Lord on face caps and shirts, and He would feed you for the rest of my life. He told me that I would be relevant in all seasons. That was how I entered into printing business, even while still serving as a youth core member. I approached people to help print business cards, create company logos, and to produce letterheads, amongst others, even before I completed my service year. During this period, I spoke to my brother in the UK to help me purchase a printing machine. Less than a week of speaking to him, I decided to embark on a project which was to print a picture of late Sani Abacha on its shirt. A group year youth earnestly asked for Abacha, led by Daniel Kanu, saw it and liked it. That singular act took me to Aso Rock, where I got a contract worth of 9.6 million naira. I was mobilized with 7 million naira and I became an instant celebrity. I delivered the job, but the balance of 2.6 million naira was not paid despite having lots of commitments. It became my first major failure in business because I had managed the mobilization fund very well. Even if the balance was not paid, my lamentation would not have been so intense. When the balance was not paid, I became very hostile, bitter, and depressed. I wanted to fight the system, but there were threats from me to be killed by my debtors. So I had to stay away from Abuja. It was also around the time of my marriage. So I returned to Lagos. You should understand that not all your hopes will be fulfilled and not all your expectations will be met. But such disappointments should not define you. On getting back to Lagos, I started afresh because the printing business was just booming. I, alongside two associates, Tubosun Alabi and Leke Oteju, established a company called Spectral Joint Consults. Fortunately for us, we got Kafilat Araoye in GT Bank, who connected us to the corporate affairs department, and we subsequently got printing jobs from the bank. At the beginning of the new millennium, where all GT Bank staff across the country wore a particular t-shirt, we got the contract, and this made us a lot of money. It was another major breakthrough, but my parents had other personal intentions. We could still work together, but had a different focus. Looking back, those experiences looked like failure, but I'm excited now that they happened. When you take raw gold, the intensity of fire it goes through determines the amount of carats it will have at the end of the day. I have gone through my rough edges. I have learned not to let society determine whether I'm a success or failure. When I look back now, I remember I did not have 500 million naira or 1 billion naira as working capital, but I see some of the stories of my friends who had such wealth in the past. I give glory to God because I'm intact. I have things money cannot buy. The icing on the cake for me is the ability to hold the Oteju dynasty together with my sacrifice, perseverance, and ability. Without God's grace, that dynasty could have died. Everything built by my uncle's SAB for about 35 to 60 years could have been in ruins or taken over by other people. Today, the family estate can serve as financial shield to extended family members for educational pursuits, among other needs. I have been opportune to provide succor to both family and other people within and outside Ikorodu. I have seen dead business back to life. These attainments are priceless to me, and to God be the glory. I got an opportunity to work in an organization like the Eye Care Foundation to be able to have an impact in my community. Chapter 5, Awesome Engagement. On average, 7 out of every 10 young people you see in the society are roaming the streets with brilliant ideas lying fallow in their minds. This is so because there is usually a disconnect between between what the young people can offer and what the society is demanding of them in light of the facilities and opportunities available to them. Today's society has not created a platform for expression of latent creativity in many youth. Most of our politicians and leaders oftentimes empower people by enslaving them. It is for the purpose of making a positive difference that at I Care Foundation we consider uplifting people in what they do rather than imposing our own ideas on them. Citizens' deficiencies are worsened when those who conceive thoughts of helping out give them like items like motorcycles, refrigerators, power generator sets, etc., without proper needs assessment. This is why they are not supposedly empowered with such items. They collect and sell the same venue which they need the money more than the items given. Surprisingly, the things happening today had always happened in the past. I remember in 1999, my pastor, Fumi and Tokumbo Johnson, got interested in me because of my tenacity and focus. They recommended me to another friend, Mrs. Jumoke Adenoro, who said she got a revelation to start an anchor program and channel it at raising new sets of youth of young people or youth in our communities and country. She engaged Leke Alda to develop a brand identity along with the logo name. After much consideration, she agreed on the name Awesome. In the research we conducted, we found out that some of the young people also were good singers, artists, and budding photographers. While some, while some were good at event planning, to execute the project, we took the youth out of their comfort zone to a serene, structured environment where they got the ambience of different versions of life. This decision was taken because of the take of if you take a program in Unilag, University of Lagos, Yaba Tech, Yaba College of Education of Technology, or any public tertiary institution for that matter, the students by nature want to exhibit their innate exuberance, thus defeating the purpose of the project. So we decide to take the students to Museum Center, an A-class environment. The change of base and novel conditions took away the students territorial influence students will want to exhibit in their innate exuberance to Museum Center and A-class environment. The change of base and novel conditions took away territorial influence students often exhibit. The financier, Mrs. Jumoke Adenoro, paid for the Ajib Hall and the logistics. Then we swung into action by setting up a volunteer system to pick up the best of candidates who took interest in the awesome program among students in Unilag, Yabatech, and awesome volunteers. To have a smooth sail, the first thing that was established was to educate the volunteers on discipline, a very crucial requirement I've been exposed to at the Rotary Youth Leadership Training done at Cisco every year. In a lifetime, I believe a youth needs to have an engagement with the Cisco. The wealth of knowledge, discipline, and reorientation that will be gathered from there cannot be quantified. They will be equipped with life skills that will be valuable forever. Once secondary school students get to their senior class, they should be able to visit the place for reorientation and leadership training purposes. My daughter, Oluwatofumi, is an alumna like her dad, 25 years later. Focus is key. In the course of planning, series of meetings were held to intimate the volunteers with the vision of the project. In anything you do, always put the vision in black and white so that anybody teaming up with you will know the purpose of running with you. By the time we held the first event, budding talented musicians like Midnight Crew, Six Teams, Rooftop MC, and Kobams, amongst others, working with us as volunteers, had shown a lot of prospects. These were young people who identified with the awesome project from the early days. They were young people with talent, but unfortunately, without the platform, the awesome project gave many of them the avenue to exhibit their innermost gifts. The midnight crew led the praise and worship at our event, which gave them exposure and an opportunity to be invited to other events. By the structure of this project, we gave wings to fresh ideas, training them to be conscious of what the failure holds for them as entrepreneurs. There were also competitions and cash prizes for startups that were won at various times. In the light of success recorded in Lagos, the project team moved to other parts of the country, including OAU, Obafemi Awolowo University, Ile-Ife. The project was a turning point for many because every mind that can be developed, it is a step towards a reformed society. We cannot continue to build the younger generation by empowering their deficiencies without a planned platform to make them better socially. The problem of the society today is that while we are making efforts to grow the youth in certain aspects, we are also leaving so many young people behind. It is said that the devil finds jobs for the idle hands. It is time to look critically at every community in our nation, do analysis and work out policies and programs that can best suit the needs of each community. Some communal programs that can help the communities include, but not limited to, sports, craftsmanship, or trading. Chapter 6, Pillar of Support. Given what every human goes through to each to reach their milestones in life, there are always people who come into our lives to become unforgettable pillars. They come in the form of support bases to help in achieving set goals. At other times, they are seen hands that nurture you through perilous times, either knowingly or otherwise. This set of individuals come in varying forms at practically unscheduled times. Many may not even be your family members. Growing up, some individuals are so inadequate that their pillar of support might be a friend who brings all the necessities of schooling. He brings money for the cafeteria, lends you books, and brings clothes at party times to ensure you measure up with your fellow classmates and battle inferiority complex. This student angel takes you to the good restaurants and pays the bills Monday through Friday without letting anyone know the secret between you and him. Pillars of support have no definite boundary of sprouting as they grow anywhere and everywhere. A man's pillar of support may be a family member, not necessarily siblings, maybe an uncle or sister or a distant relative who just piques interest in you. For me, it happened to my uncle, Barrister SAB Oteju, whom I discovered very early in life. One thing he did for the family while we were growing up was to remove the elements of segregation. He explained it as believing in blood and genealogy of man. Once you bear the Oteju name, he sees you as himself. There's quite a difference between seeing somebody like yourself and seeing someone as your responsibility. The difference lies in establishing what can be done to self and what can be done to others. From when we were small, my uncle often rang it in our ears that he will not leave any property in a child's name. Rather, he would empower each child with an education. But what gave me a deeper understanding was actually my first recognizable pillar of support, my mother. She had trained us to rely only on ourselves and the knowledge of life we could acquire. Her admonition made us think in the postulation of our uncle, Barrister SAB, supported the tenets of education not only financially but morally and socially. to ensure that we were all educationally sound. A man's pillars of support are based on many exposures: family, friends, teachers, acquaintances, workplace, colleagues, even playground pals. There is no exclusivity in getting people to pull you along. It is about recognizing a pillar of support when you see one. These pillars of support become seed factors that blow up your potentials. Back in Oriwu College, my government teacher, Mr. Tunde Dabi, would call me at different times to tell me that he sees me at the top of the society in the future. Permit me to use an unpalatable story to drive in what the man did for me. Some time ago, a close relation of mine was involved in an incident in Ikorodu, then led to his name led me to his name being published in the national dailies. Because of my popularity in school, some students out of envy brought the publication to my school and pasted it where many people would see it. Ordinarily, because of the event at the time, I did not want to go to school, but my uncle Alhaji Abatan insisted, saying the person who was involved and myself shared different names. So I should not allow his actions affect my mission. On getting to school, people started looking at me with disapproval for an issue that I was not involved with. The day at the school daily assembly, the principal, Mr. Ogunsola, said my name is Adebayo Oteju and that nobody should call me any other name. That was my name. That was not my own. That demystified the momentum the issue was gathering. Another instance of my principal being a pillar of support was when the school prefects were to be chosen. The principal said, though Bayo Oteju might not be one of the most brilliant students in the school, I know he's one of those that will excel in life. There are many instances in life when the words of encouragement you get from people will be the major factor that will prepare you to see your vision. It was in my secondary school I met Yemisi Asaju, whom I mentioned in my previous chapter. She was a youth corps member and coordinator for Interact Club, a club sponsored by Rotary of Ikorodu in our school. Yemisi believes so much in us. In fact, my journey to Ilorin to enroll in IDMB was facilitated by her. For some people, for some people to reach their purpose, they need to leave their comfort zone. It was through her that I was able to do my IJMB, retake my WAEC with good grades, which led to gaining admission in the University of Ilorin. Yemisi gave me a soft landing in Ilorin as an undergraduate student. She technically provided the comfort of her parents' home for me to live in, with assured 3 square meals for 2 years. While at her house, the only thing I needed to bother about was transport and personal upkeep. Despite our family being relatively large, there was no discrimination in what the children and I ate. The family planted in us the compassion to also give others a platform to live themselves. Another pillar worthy of mention is architect Taiwo Kara, who told me at a very young age and groomed me into an estate manager when I was still at the university. Still, humble nature is rare to come by in people who have little or nothing to gain from you. Baba Jimmy Adegoke Benson is a name I will celebrate for a long time. God can connect you to the future. I'm a living witness that with my current engagement with Jimmy Benson, books shall be written for generations to read. Please stay tuned. I won't do justice to this page if I don't share my experiences with Akin Ajunwan, Pastor Alonge, Pastor Tokumbo Johnson, Bukola Odushino, and many others who rose up to firm pillars of support when it mattered most. Akin believed in me to the extent that I could do no wrong in his eyes. I remember living with him in Abuja with about six other people, and wife would continuously pray for all of us without discrimination. Akin is a complete definition of optimism. While in Abuja, he told us that one day he would travel to the United States of America through a visa lottery. At that time, he hadn't even applied. We all laughed at his newfound American dream. But behold, some months later, Akin went to his mailbox at the post office, and there it was, his American visa. Permit me to share with you the story of how I became a Christian in 1984 while visiting the uncle of my uncle barrister S.A.B. Oteju. In our family, when the name SAB is mentioned, what naturally comes to mind is money. He was the family pillar that solved all problems. One day, I went to his office and the receptionist, Bukola Odushinu, have seen me before. She said, no other family member ever thought in that line that our uncle was human and could die at any time. She said the way we worshipped and magnified him made it seem like we were making him take the position of God in our lives, forgetting that when man puts his trust in another man, he sets himself up for perish. She went further to tell me about Jesus Christ by opening my eyes to the reality of life. She guided my way to Christ, and I will forever be grateful for that particular act. Without me welcoming, without me welcoming Christ into my life then, only God knows where I would have been today. One scripture says, in all your ways acknowledge him, and he will direct your path. Another says, woe unto him that puts his trust in the hands of flesh. As young people, you should cultivate the act of moving closer to God, because anything that substitutes God in the life of man, sooner or later, God will take it away, be it family, work, or items. God will inadvertently create a gulf between you to manifest his supremeness and open your eyes to the fact that he controls all things in order to demystify the wealthy people we worship. There is a correlation between man and God. That is why we call pastors men of God. Why do we call them men of God? Any man of God is a component part of God. The man element in him is 50%, while the God element that performs miracles in the remaining 50%. All men are equal before God, but people tremble in the presence of men of God, forgetting that man cannot and never be God. It is only God who cannot disappoint and remains the ultimate pillar, though many will pass through your life reflecting the will of God. Because of what I know and my absolute trust in God, I do not I do not get disappointed in the actions of man. When people disappoint me, I learned to put man in his place. This should be a guide to every young person willing to make a difference in life. And the man said, are you okay? Many have truncated their vision in life simply because of disappointment from people they relied upon. Still, my pillars of support, I cannot forget my mother-in-law. I cannot forget my mother-in-law, Bosede Durosaro, who used to work as a medical personnel in Saudi Arabia. When I had my first child, my mother-in-law was supportive to the extent of buying everything the child would wear for 1 year. It was a complete stock with color combination. She, she also introduced me to numerous opportunity. Nigeria and abroad, and opened her networks for me to tap into. When a man is diligent in his ways, he gets support for everywhere he turns. Mommy, the matriarch of Oteju family, Mrs. Helen Oteju, is God sent and a pillar of support made of gold and platinum. I'm sure my next book will dedicate 2 chapters to her positive impact on Oteju family. She is exceptional. I overwhelmingly supportive both physically and spiritually. I celebrate you, ma. People see people seen as pillars of support can either push you up or pull you down. It is the character of man to put others in suspense accounts, keeping you forever on the waiting list. Young people should learn to believe first and foremost in the ability God has planted in them. Every other thing should be an addendum that should not derail a focused mind. Many will come in the form of support structure, but in truth, they are termites on a wooden plank. Failure and disappointment are part of living. Life is not Las Vegas. It is not every time that we should expect to witness a Disney kind of atmosphere. Young people should learn how to adapt their focus to their realities. Every good man has a bad side, and it is not in our stake to judge or condemn. For those we look up to as pillars of support but are failing the responsibilities life assigned to them. We can only